Hey, this is Jim Watson, and you're listening to Tobin Tonight.
So we are here at Tobin Tonight. We're on location in a conference room with Mayor Jim Watson. So we're going to talk mono to mayor.
Sure.
So last time I believe we had a discussion was 2015, just before Christmas. So it's been a while.
Good memory.
Yeah. So let's start off with how was the holidays?
The Christmas holidays?
Yeah.
They were great, really uneventful. Didn't really do anything. I stuck around Ottawa and cleaned my house and visited friends and family, ate too much, the usual things. But I wanted to be here because, of course, December 31st was our big kickoff for the 2017 celebrations here at City Hall. We had 6,000-7,000 people here and kids lining Laurier and Elgin Street all the way up to Parliament Hill, where they had their own mini torches as we lit our cauldron here at City Hall. And the torch passed all the way up to Parliament Hill when we relit the Centennial Flame with the Governor General. So it was quite exciting.
Nice. And that's great for Ottawa, number one. Get all the younger crowd involved in it as well.
Yeah, we had 425 students from all the 4 school boards in Ottawa that were chosen, and it was a great opportunity. They got to keep their torch, and it was a bit of history, and it kicked off what I think has already been an amazing year of celebrations. We hosted Skate Canada, we hosted the Davis Cup, which was a great success. We've had sellout after sellout of our events. We had Red Bull Crashed Ice, which attracted 40,000 people on Saturday and 25,000 people on Friday. The Prime Minister and his family came, so it was an amazing opportunity to showcase our beautiful city.
And let's talk about some of those events. You just mentioned the Red Bull Crashed Ice. How did that all come about? And of course, you mentioned the success, the Prime Minister even coming to town. Does that bring a lot of exposure to the city?
Well, it brings huge exposure that we could never afford to pay for in advertising. You know, to give you an example, the New York Times featured Ottawa as the destination of choice, and Canada being the country of choice, a few weeks ago, and listed 7 or 8 different spots around the city people should drop by. There was a full-page article in the Chicago Tribune on Ottawa, and there was international broadcasting of Red Bull Crashed Ice on Friday and Saturday night that went worldwide. So these kinds of events are not only fun for the city and the people who come to visit the city, but they're great for our exposure around the world, because our budget is pretty small compared to most other marketing organizations. So we have to rely on a lot of earned media, as it's called.
And how does that personally make you feel as a mayor getting all that exposure? Because I mean, of course, when they mention Ottawa, they have to mention kind of your contributions to it as well.
Well, my role is more of sort of booster-in-chief, I guess, to promote Ottawa and be available to international media to do interviews and so on. But the Red Bull idea was first thought of by Guy Laflamme, the executive director of Ottawa 2017, back 9 years ago, and he's been trying to get them to come ever since. And lots of bureaucratic obstacles over the years, because it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the canal, and you've got the Parliament buildings on one side and security concerns and so on. And when he first broached it with me, I thought, how are you going to fit a whole Red Bull Crashed Ice track from basically Majors Hill Park or the Chateau Laurier down the locks? And he's brilliant, and he made it work. And it was, despite the cold, I think we probably would have had 20,000 more people, which probably would have been quite a problem logistically. But the cold kept some people away. But those who were there had a great time. It was great for the local economy. Couldn't find a hotel room in downtown Ottawa to book. And it really helped us. We're really trying to change the image of Ottawa. The slogan is from Ottawa the Old to Ottawa the Bold. So things like that. We had 2 sold-out gourmet dinners at Suntec Tomatoes in Manotick. You're eating amongst the greenhouses. This gourmet meal by Mark Lepin, one of the best chefs in Canada. We've sold out our Canada's Table, which is a 1,000-person dining experience on Wellington Street with the Parliament buildings as a backdrop. We sold out our picnic on the bridge, between Gatineau and Ottawa on July 2nd. The Grey Cup is coming, and it will be sold out. We're working hard to firm up an NHL Outdoor Classic, and we hope to hear some news on that tomorrow.
You're very active on Twitter as well, and one of the tweets I remember was someone saying when they were building the Crashed Ice whole set, they said, They tweeted, "Why don't you test it out?" Was there ever a chance that you were going to do that? Or?
No, because I can barely stand up on skates, so there's no way I would go down this massive drop and go 50 or 60 kilometers an hour down a track. And I think there's insurance reasons, although I think they took a couple journalists down, if I'm not mistaken. I know one journalist from CBC went and tried it, but it's this is a professional sport. You can't just show up as I said, I can't even stand up on skates on a flat surface. I would end up going down on my derriere the whole way and not stopping until I hit the bale of hay at the end of the run.
The Junos are also in Ottawa this year. How big is that for the city?
It's huge. It's the third time we've hosted them, and my goal when I set up the 2017 apparatus was really to have a year-long celebration, but anchored by three major events. One of them was the Juno Awards, the other was the Grey Cup, and the third was the NHL Outdoor Classic. So far we have 2 out of 3, and then I'm quite confident we'll hear some good news tomorrow when the commissioner of the NHL is at my breakfast series at Lansdowne tomorrow. So these kinds of events draw a lot of attention and a lot of people to the city, and they're a lot of fun as well. So, this is also about economic development. It's about selling Ottawa as a tourism destination, a place for people to invest. And we're able to bring some of our corporate sponsors to some of these events, and they see a different side of Ottawa. We're not just a gray flannel government town. We actually are a pretty dynamic city with some of the best restaurants. We've just named the high-tech capital of Canada. The best place to be a student is Ottawa. The most sustainable city is Ottawa, according to Corporate Knights. Money Sense magazine said we're the best city to live and work in. So this is not me, boasting from a bias point of view. These are all independent, third-party organizations and publications. So, sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. We'll complain about something in Ottawa, but people from the outside looking in say, boy, you've got a clean, safe, green city. You're building LRT to avoid the kind of congestion you see in some other big cities in North America. You're investing in infrastructure, whether it's social infrastructure, cultural infrastructure, things like opening up the new Ottawa Art Gallery later this year. We just opened an innovation center. We just opened La Nouvelle Scène for French theater. Open community centers and expansions in Stittsville, Barrhaven, Canada, Cumberland. So the city's really on a roll, and it's a great opportunity to be mayor of our city because so much is happening after years of, we were stuck in the mud on so many issues, like Lansdowne, for instance. How many decades did we dither about tear it down, build it up? Our council oversaw that beautiful completion of that project, which is a lot to the city, lots of jobs. And it's the same with things like trying to get some of these big events that we've attracted over the last several years. The NHL All-Star Game, we couldn't get that without a new convention center. So we worked with the province and the federal government. We opened a new convention center at the Shaw Center. We got a new, trade show complex, the EY Center up by the airport, which is doing very well. And we'll have an LRT stop there in phase 2 of LRT that was just approved by council. So a lot of good things are happening, and there'll always be critics and naysayers, but I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish. The Junos are a great feather in our cap because they allow the local music industry to shine as well, and more venues to book local artists at the same time.
The Ottawa Citizen posted earlier this year, it was an opinion piece, more or less saying that you've been doing this for so long that they were wondering, should you leave us on a high? Because even the Sun has posted 79%. We had a 79% approval rating. You're one of the top mayors in Canada for that. And they were just kind of curious as to why would you continue being mayor? Like you could go out on a high. You could go out with all the success that you had right now. Is it just a drive that you like doing this job?
Well, it's a combination. I enjoy the work. I think we've accomplished a lot collectively as a community, and I've played a small part in that. But I think there's some big projects coming up on the horizon that you need a steady hand to help guide the Civic Hospital as a multi-billion-dollar project. I helped broker a deal that provided a better site for the new Civic Hospital. And that's going to be one of the most important buildings we build in our lifetime, because if we don't have it done right, healthcare and people's lives suffer, obviously. LeBreton Flats is another huge project that's going to be taking place over the course of the next several years. I fought very hard to get on the board of the National Capital Commission along with the Mayor of Gatineau, and I think I could offer some helpful insight into making sure that project moves ahead, because I think it would be good for the city to have the arena downtown, to have the 2 LRT stations there. And I think, just the building of LRT Phase 2 is a $3.3 billion project. And I don't think you want people who have no experience running these projects and running these big budgets to take over midway through. It's not that, everyone's is replaceable, quite frankly, but I think, sometimes people are always looking for change, but they want experience. So I've been fortunate. I've taken breaks from municipal government. I've been the head of a Crown Corporation, the Canadian Tourism Commission. I was a minister in 3 different portfolios. I worked at the House of Commons. I worked for a brief time as a journalist. I understand the community, and ultimately the public will decide whether I should have a third mandate.
Does that ever play a part, though, in your job of wondering if your approval rate went down to when people might be coming to your office and saying, okay, he has to go? Does that ever play a part in how you do your job, or is it more or less you have a set goal and you don't worry what people say?
Well, listen, polls go up and down. Obviously, when there's a good poll, politicians embrace them, and when there's a bad poll, they say, well, they dismiss them. I was fortunate. I got a very, that approval rating was roughly the percentage of people that voted for me in the last election. So I think there's some credibility to it. I think 77% in the last election, and this poll was 79%. So, when I ran for mayor the first time, I got 82%. So I've always, been fortunate to have a good broad base of support in different parts of the city, rural, suburban, urban. I think if I'm not mistaken, the fellow who wrote that was a candidate who ran in my riding for the Conservatives, and he lost twice, and he's probably a little bitter that he lost, and he sees this guy Watson, why is he winning? He shouldn't run again. He's always been a critic of mine. I try to ignore him, but my view is you've got to go forward every 4 years like a big job interview, and in my case, it's 900,000 people that get to decide whether I keep my job or not. And, I said during my announcement that I made on Facebook, you either run on your record or you run from it. A lot of politicians run on their record and deny, well, I didn't have anything to do with that. That was someone else. That was council's fault. I run on my record, and I think when people look at what we've been able to accomplish, whether it's cleaning up the Ottawa River, or investing in social housing and arts, expanding LRT, getting community infrastructure back up and running, they look at it with a sense of community pride. We had a period where there was very much doubt whether big projects could ever get through City Hall. LRT was canceled 2 councils ago. It cost us millions of dollars in legal fees and penalties, and we have nothing to show for it. Today, shovels are in the ground. The system's going to open next year, and we're already moving ahead on Phase 2. And then, we've already got the environmental assessment going for Phase 3, which is Canada, as well as, what can we do to help Barrhaven, and what will we do with the Prince of Wales Bridge to connect with the STO system in Quebec, so we have a more seamless system across the river.
When you were deciding about your re-election, of course, you take a bit of time. Was there ever a doubt to think that you should go another way?
Well, I wanted to take the time to talk with friends and former campaign workers and family members. It's a big decision. It's a big part of your life that you give. I'm not looking for sympathy, but my view is that if you're unhappy, every day or every couple of days going into work, and you don't like the people you're working with, or you're always leaving the office angry or grumpy, it's time to move on. There are days that I'm not happy about something or grumpy about something, but the vast majority of the time, I really like coming into work. I like spending time out in the community. People laugh that I would go to the opening of an envelope, but I think you got to spend as much time outside of City Hall as you do inside, because that's where you learn what's going on in the community. If you listen, it's almost like if you go to a doctor's office and you're in the waiting room, everyone's sick. Well, that's not reflective of the community. It's because you're in a doctor's office. Here, you have usually the same people coming to complain about the same things all of the time, and they're not reflective of the community. I'll go out canvassing in the summer months between elections, and what may be a huge issue downtown at City Hall doesn't even register with people out in the suburbs or rural Ottawa or in one of the urban neighborhoods. So I think politicians who, I call it on the federal scene, Hillitis. They love the trappings of Parliament Hill, question period, the car and driver, the fancy library. But, if you lose touch with your riding, you won't be there much longer.
And that's something I think is a credit to you, because you, like I said, social media is big, so you keep contact that way. When there's events, you go to them. I think even I read earlier that when it comes to you or Justin Trudeau, they said Jim Watson makes Justin Trudeau look kind of shameful because he's always out at the events and getting interactions with the people as well.
But in fairness, though, the Prime Minister went and did that cross-country tour of town hall meetings. No, stacked questions, or, you can't ask it because you're going to ask an embarrassing question. So I admire him for doing that, because most politicians, like Stephen Harper, never would go to a town hall meeting unless everyone was vetted. They were conservative supporters. And, look, you have to take the good with the bad. I've been to a lot of public meetings where people are angry about a certain issue, but, what I try to do is at least be accessible. I can't necessarily see everyone who asks for a meeting because it's just not enough hours in the day. But we've got good deputy mayors, good members of council, and good staff that can hopefully help people if people can't get in to see me directly.
And finally, the last question is, you mentioned the good and the bad of Ottawa. Can you mention some of the things that Ottawa needs to improve upon?
Well, I think we need to improve upon our transit system, and that's why we're moving ahead with LRT. We should have done this 10 years ago, and we would have had the Barrhaven North-South line completed, and we'd be well on our way to completing East-West. So that's one issue. There's no question, I think, in terms of last year, we had a very tough year from a community safety point of view with the number of shootings. We're off to a much better start in the first quarter of this year, and we're adding 25 new police officers this year, as we did last year as well. I think we constantly strive to diversify the economy because we put a lot of our eggs in the federal government basket, and the last federal government cut about 20,000 positions, so that had a negative impact on the economy. Those numbers are going back up, which is helpful for Ottawa's economy and for people seeking jobs, but we constantly have to work hard to diversify the economy. That's why we're pushing to have Ottawa designated the Centre of Excellence for Autonomous Vehicles. QNX and BlackBerry are doing some amazing work in Canada, 600 jobs, $100 million investment. That's one example of a growth area. Cybersecurity and defense is another area where we have some expertise. And that was why I was so pleased. There was a report came out that listed Ottawa as really the high-tech hub of the country, which was great. And it's something, it justifies, or not justifies, but it sort of cements what we've already known, that we've got a big, good, solid base of knowledge workers. We have more PhDs per capita than any city in Canada. We have more scientists and engineers per capita than any city in Canada. More venture capital put into Ottawa companies, more startups than any other city in the country. So we're firing on a lot of cylinders, and we've got to keep that up because we want to make sure that if there's a downturn with the federal government hiring, it's going to be offset in the private sector.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to Mayor Jim Watson for coming on the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying, if you have a mayor that takes the time to chat for a podcast just starting out with no following and helps the city improve all at the same time, maybe keep that guy around. Just a thought. Thanks for listening, and good night.